In the dim space, a cold blue light from a holographic screen cast upon it, displaying the incomplete announcement, and the expected date of the raid is. Hyrkan held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Please, just this month, please, he silently pleaded, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple as he stared intently at the screen, awaiting the fated information. Instantly, the final words appeared decisively, in 3 days. The announcement was like a thunderclap. Amidst the skeleton warriors standing still like statues, Hyrkan sat frozen, his eyes wide with astonishment. He mumbled, "In 3 days?" However, his shock quickly faded, replaced by a self-satisfied and calculating smile. He glanced at the device in his hand, his voice tinged with amusement and certainty. "Sooner than I expected, but not surprising. Everything is still as I calculated." Silence enveloped the space for a moment before Hyrkan could no longer hold back and burst into laughter. "Haha, in 3 days? Haha, simply wonderful, wonderful." He bent over, covering his mouth to hide his flushed, joyful grin. Below, his colossal golem and army of skeletons stood motionless, witnessing their master's exhilaration.
In the gloomy forest, the colossal golem summoned by Hyrkan was grappling with a large bear, while the skeleton warriors stood motionless like deadly statues, awaiting their master's command. From a high branch, Hyrkan observed his army thoughtfully. He muttered to himself, his tone slightly surprised yet tinged with self-satisfaction. "In 3 days? So fast. They must be eager since I've spread the word to other guilds. Well, if it's Hydra, I needn't worry. They're far ahead of other guilds in main quest progress, and they have many talented players." A cold, calculating smile spread across Hyrkan's lips as he thought of the future. "Once the main quest ends, my biggest obstacle will vanish. In 3 days, my happy life will begin." But days later, that beautiful vision shattered. A Hydra guild member barely let out a pained "guh" before collapsing, fresh blood staining their helmet crimson. Instantly, a chilling blood-red message appeared in midair. "Failure. All members of Hydra Guild have perished."
In the dimly lit room, Jaehyun froze, eyes wide with horror, staring at his phone screen. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead as a flurry of question marks danced in his mind, showing extreme bewilderment. "Are you guys kidding me?" In a fit of rage, he slammed the phone onto the floor. A dry thwack echoed. Jaehyun angrily pointed forward as if confronting someone, shouting in fury, "If you plan to do it this early, you should at least have had a plan beforehand. Why do it just to fail in an hour?" The anger quickly subsided, replaced by disappointment and exhaustion. He collapsed onto the cold floor, body utterly spent. "Did I overestimate them? Maybe I should start looking for other alternatives," he muttered to himself in despair. Just then, the phone on the floor unexpectedly lit up, a blue notification appearing. Red Bulls have started their live stream. The sudden notification startled Jaehyun. He paused, a spark of realization flashing in his mind. The Red Bulls, isn't that where Mathador Chev is? Memories of the great warrior with his charming blonde hair and confident smile suddenly flooded back. An unimaginable possibility began to form in Jaehyun's mind. He quickly snatched the phone, his eyes glinting with urgency mixed with hope. "Don't tell me."
The sky was dyed a chaotic deep crimson. In midair, blue crystalline fragments floated, gathering like an upward-flowing river of light, gradually reconstructing the colossal structure. Standing on a high rock, Mathador stated, "Since the battlefield is being restored, it seems the Hydra have failed their raid." Mathador Chev gently landed on the cracked earth, turning to face the vast ranks of the Red Bulls, awaiting orders solemnly. His fiery gaze swept over his comrades, his voice ringing powerfully. "Soldiers, have you seen what happened? That is an extremely powerful foe, capable of wiping out even the Hydra. Moreover, we lack sufficient provisions. Our chances of success are very low." The atmosphere grew tense, but then a challenging smile appeared on Mathador's lips. "Nevertheless," he roared, plunging his greatsword's hilt forcefully into the ground with all his might. A resounding thud made the ground quake and crack. With eyes gleaming with excitement and a battle-hungry smile, he declared loudly, "The Red Bulls will still accept this challenge."
The atmosphere in the game was electric, cheers echoing across the battlefield. Members of the Red Bulls Guild in their brilliant red armor raised their weapons high, shouting their guild's name with pride and fervent enthusiasm. Jaehyun watched the live broadcast, listening to the deafening cheers. He muttered skeptically, "Are they going to start right away? Even if it's the Red Bulls Guild, this is a bit too... Suddenly, another voice rang out from the broadcast, interrupting Jaehyun's thoughts. Now, allow me to introduce the partner who will join us in this raid. Jaehyun's eyes widened, surprise clear on his face. Amidst the virtual battlefield, Mathador Chev, the guildmaster of Red Bulls, spoke with authority. A person with intricately armored boots advanced forward. He boldly declared, "The guildmaster of the Thunder Hunters Guild, Lightning Empress Shiru." A majestic figure appeared. Shiru stood there, draped in a magnificent blue cloak, leading a mighty army of the Thunder Hunters Guild under proud blue banners. Back in his room, Jaehyun was utterly frozen. He stared at the screen, eyes wide, cold sweat beading on his forehead. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, a stunned sound escaping him. What?
Chae Seolyeon appeared vividly. She stood there, majestic in a splendid white and gold-trimmed armor, her long black hair flowing, her sharp eyes exuding the power of a supreme commander. Earlier, at the Red Bulls encampment, night enveloped the tents and fortress. The flickering campfire illuminated the red flags bearing the guild's emblem fluttering in the wind. Mathador Chev, with his usual confident smile, seemed quite surprised by the uninvited guest. He spoke with a somewhat mocking tone. "This is quite unexpected. I didn't think the Thunder Queen would be the one to request a meeting first." Under the flickering campfire light, the two sat opposite each other across a simple wooden table. The atmosphere grew tense. Mathador Chev crossed his arms, looked directly at Shiru, and asked suspiciously, "Don't tell me you're here to declare war on us, are you?" Shiru leaned back comfortably, her demeanor completely calm. "Of course not. We are allies at the moment." Mathador Chev's expression grew colder. He subtly raised an eyebrow, his voice full of innuendo. "Is that so? I heard one of my men was severely beaten."
Hohui made a mischievous, ugly face. Shiru merely smiled serenely. "It's nothing," she said gently. "That's just how we greet each other. Anyway, let's get down to business." Under the night sky, the flickering campfire illuminated their faces. Shiru sat down, crossing her legs in a powerful posture, her sharp eyes fixed on Mathador Chev. "I heard you have information," she cut to the chase, "about the corrupted count." Mathador Chev seemed flustered, quickly denying. "Information? I don't understand what you're talking about." "I don't have time for your games," Shiru interrupted, her voice devoid of patience. Her eyes became deep and calculating. "I've confirmed that several people from the top 30 guilds have received information about the corrupted count. Even someone like you, who couldn't even begin to track the count's whereabouts, has started acting, so even a fool would realize."
Under the flickering firelight, Mathador Chev chuckled, admitting comfortably, "You're really backing me into a corner. You're right. However, we don't know exactly who tipped us off." Shiru narrowed her eyes, her gaze sharp in the darkness. "Next question then." Mathador placed a finger on his chin, his expression turning pensive as he changed the subject. "Do you think the Hydra Guild could do it?" he murmured, his gaze still fixed on Shiru. "I'm not sure anymore." "They will fail," Shiru stated firmly, her voice without hesitation. "They rushed to accelerate the dungeon raid date just because they wanted to be first. Count Thahoa is the first main quest boss. It won't be that easy. They would have had a better chance if they'd let other guilds try first and just gathered information." The air around the campfire seemed to thicken. The relaxed look on Mathador's face vanished, replaced by an insightful gaze. He looked straight at Shiru, his voice full of seriousness. "I'm sure you didn't come here just to talk about the Hydra Guild. What is it you ultimately want to say?" In response to his question, a subtle, knowing smile bloomed on Shiru's lips.
Shiru plunged the sword, emitting an eerie blue light, into the table right next to Mathador Chev. He only had time to widen his eyes in astonishment, unable to believe the speed. Kim's instinctively moved to draw his sword defensively, but Mathador stopped him. Amidst the tense atmosphere, she spoke up with a proposal. "How about we cooperate for this raid on the corrupted count?" Shiru looked straight into his eyes with a mysterious and resolute half-smile. "I'll help you get the first kill." Back to reality, seeing the sharp blade vibrating right beside him, Mathador Chev was completely convinced. He stood up, donning his majestic red armor, his eyes gleaming with undisguised admiration. He thought to himself, "At that time, I thought she was just boasting. As expected, she has enough metal to do what she says."
Amidst the chaotic battlefield, Shiru charged fearlessly, her golden weapon tracing deadly arcs, sweeping away monsters in her path. Each of her strikes carried incredible power, shattering enemies into pieces amidst their pained roars. Despite her ferocity, a sense of unease still crept into Mathador Chev's mind as he watched the battle. He muttered to himself. However, his premonition was correct. The space suddenly warped, enveloped by a suffocating crimson evil aura. From within the blood mist, a figure gradually emerged. It was the Dark Count, the final boss of Chapter 1. With bloodshot eyes and an arrogant smile, he hovered in midair, dark tentacles coiling around him like a living cloak. He let out a horrifying laugh, his voice laced with contempt. Cuckoo, not bad for lowly scum like you. I shall utterly crush your will. No sooner had he finished speaking, the Dark Count unleashed his full power. Dark energy erupted, transforming into countless grotesque faces. Demonic creatures with red-striped eyes, jagged teeth, and mournful screams charged forward wildly, bringing despair and utter horror, ready to devour all.
The roars echoed across the smoke-filled, fiery battlefield. "The monsters are coming again!" a desperate player screamed. Amidst the repulsive sea of monsters, the remaining players were weakly trying to fight back, struggling to hold the defensive line. "Block them!" Desperate screams erupted as the defensive line was breached. Observing the precarious situation, Mathador Chev's resolute face, hidden behind his helmet, hardened. He muttered, his eyes flashing with determination as he realized the critical state. "Our forces are reaching their limit. If that's the case..." Nearby, Shiru was also struggling amidst the encirclement, clicking her tongue in frustration as wave after wave of monsters surged forward relentlessly. Tsk, they are endless. Without a moment's hesitation, Mathador Chev charged forth, his body enveloped in brilliant red armor, like a meteor plummeting into the monster horde. A dazzling red streak flared as he swung his weapon, creating a destructive vortex that swept away everything in its path. Amidst the monster's growls, he roared, his shout overpowering the chaotic battle sounds. "Thunder Queen, I will clear a path for you."
In the epicenter of the blazing red energy stream, Mathador Chev poured all his might into his sword, forming a defensive stance as solid as a fortress wall. An earth-shattering explosion echoed as the two immense streams of power collided. At that very moment, a graceful figure surged up from below. With her black hair flowing and her determined azure eyes shining brightly, Shiru glided through the chaotic energy screen, the sword in her hand flashing with a cold light. Witnessing the sudden sight, Corrupt Count roared in fury, his face contorted with rage. "Damn it! How dare you!" But his rage could not stop Shiru. She moved like a dancer through the deadly battlefield, her agile movements evading furious attacks. The deafening clash of metal rang out repeatedly as she deflected every obstacle with her sword. Amidst the shower of debris, a confident smirk briefly appeared on her lips. Finally, with a graceful flip, Shiru landed on the desolate ground, dust and rubble settling around her. She swiftly approached the boss.
Amidst the chaotic air, Shiru's black hair flew wildly. Her eyes sparkled with azure lightning, embodying unwavering conviction in this finishing blow. With a cold voice, she declared, "This ends now." However, an unimaginable event occurred. The confidence on her face shattered, replaced by utter horror as a dark force unexpectedly rose from below. On the desolate battlefield stained with blood red, dark shadows like the shark tentacles of the fallen count ruthlessly pierced Shiru's body. She was pinned mid-air, fresh blood staining her pristine white attire before being violently dragged down by the threads of darkness. Witnessing the horrific scene, Mathador Chev in his blazing red armor roared in despair and fury, "Thunder Queen!" Shiru's consciousness began to fade. Streaks of blood dotted her face, her eyes slowly closing. Her vision was reduced to a blank white before everything plunged into endless darkness.
Suddenly, brilliant golden streaks of light swirled wildly in space, intertwining like a chaotic energy storm. At the storm's core, Shiru continued to dart like an arrow, her sword tracing deadly arcs. The fallen count could only stare, unable to believe what was unfolding before his eyes. With eyes blazing icy blue, Shiru poured all her strength into a decisive blow. Instantly, a blinding column of light erupted from the ground straight up into the sky, piercing right through the Count's body. His face contorted in a silent scream, bloodshot eyes wide with horror as pure energy tore his body in two. After unleashing the earth-shattering attack, Shiru gently landed, the ground beneath her feet cracking from the aftershock. Witnessing the entire scene, Mathador Chev let out a sigh of relief. Admiring smile curled on his lips. Honestly, it seems like...
Amidst the fiery battlefield engulfed in smoke and dust, Shiru stood tall, her black hair flowing. Bloodstains on her cheek and a blood-stained sword were testament to the fierce battle just fought. Looking at that resilient figure, Mathador Chev couldn't help but inwardly think, she's more terrifying than I imagined. At her feet, the fallen Count let out a final desperate shriek before vanishing. Immediately, a blue system notification board appeared, solemnly declaring, Red Bulls and Thunder Hunters have defeated the fallen Count. In the dark room, the only light emanated from a phone screen, illuminating Jaehyun's face. His eyes widened, filled with astonishment and disbelief as he read the news. Chae Seolyeon defeated the fallen Count? The initial shock quickly faded, replaced by a cold expression. He clenched his teeth, then sprang up from the bed. Jaehyun muttered to himself, his voice a mix of frustration and cold determination. Well, it doesn't matter. I just need the fallen Count defeated. Who does it isn't important. Enjoy it while you can, because the fallen Count will be the last boss you claim. His hand clenched into a fist, veins bulging in anger. Ultimately, the final victor...
Under the fiery sky, where embers glittered like stardust, Shiru appeared. Her long black hair gently swayed in the wind, contrasting with her gleaming golden armor. Her cerulean eyes were as still as a lake, looking down with a serene expression, hinting at an anticipation. From below, Jaehyun looked up, his gaze meeting that majestic figure. In his steadfast eyes, the flame of determination blazed fiercely, as if challenging, "It is I."